Hello. Let me plug this up. I am Tiana Nichelle. I am an empowerment coach, a serial entrepreneur. I have life conversations every Thursday. Today is Saturday. I'm doing it today. Let's see. Okay, my phone charging. My phone's about to die. I am connected to Instagram and Facebook. And then the replay of this. The replay of this will be on YouTube. Hello. So tonight, happy Mother's Day. First, I want to start off to all of the mothers, stepmoms, women who take care of other people's kids, and fill in for absent moms. Happy Mother's Day. So I just wanted to start with that. And you can actually watch the replay. I didn't even get to say that on my YouTube channel, Tiana Nichelle, the Visionary, where I actually did Mother's Day segments last year about navigating difficult mother-daughter relationships, and I also did one on a strong woman. So I'm going to link it below on YouTube, so you'll be able to see when I upload this video. You'll be able to see those videos. So go on over there and watch. It's some good nuggets, I will say. But this one is life lessons. I'm going to get into forgiving your parents. Now, how I started off these conversations is talking about what our parents did not teach us. But also, the one thing that I want to talk about and get into tonight is the fact that a lot of our parents, now that we're navigating adulthood, we are realizing that a lot of our parents only knew what they knew. And it's like a lot of them were parenting from the way that their parents parent or lack thereof, or they were trying to make life happen, in whatever way that looked like. And we can see from even our imperfections and the things that we do. I was a stepmom for a few years, and that was such a learning lesson. Even though I had helped raise my siblings, it was totally different to be, in that role over a small child. Because when I was helping my mom with my siblings, they were a little bit older. Even though, let me not say that, I was changing diapers child at 5 and giving bottles and formula and sippy cups and snacks and boiling hot dogs for lunch and all of that, coming up with games to play and entertain and watching movies. And I was changing diapers at 5, child. I've been changing diapers for a long time, okay? But to actually have a say-so in how a child is being reared is what the difference was. Because even though I helped raise my siblings, like, my mom ultimately had the final say, right? And different decisions. Whereas when I was helping, like when I was in my stepmommy role of a 6-month-old, it was quite different. It was very different, especially because he had different challenges, and navigating that with his father was a beast. That's all I'm gonna say, because it was a beast. And that little baby needed a lot of attention, a lot of care, a lot of teaching, a lot of grooming. Like, he, teaching him how to feed himself and all of that. Like, I did that with my siblings, but that was like, I couldn't even, I did it, but I couldn't remember how I did it when I was younger. But my parents had, because I had both parents at that time that my siblings were little, but because of their schedules, I was mommy number two, right? And then my dad passed when I was 15. So I helped my mom from that point on with the both of them. And they're like 17 months apart. So they like twins. So, looking back on that, and me and my mom have had these conversations because we did not have the best relationship when I was a kid. It was very difficult. I talk about navigating difficult mother-daughter relationships actually on my YouTube channel, so you all can. I'm gonna link it to this video when I upload this to YouTube. But I realized that there were a lot of things that I had been holding on to when it came to my mom that I really needed to let go. I feel like now, because I've lost a parent, like my dad is gone, my sister is gone, and so it's my mom, my younger brother. I do have an older brother from my dad, but he didn't grow up in the house with us, so it's not the same. Like, he didn't have the same type of responsibility. He didn't have to look after me or my siblings. Like, it was me looking after them. Like, it was me. So, looking back, like, and having a conversation with my mom, I realized that there were a lot of things that she was working through on her own. And I didn't really understand that because, of course, kids only understand what they understand, right? And this is the reason why parents really have to be more transparent and actually more present, because kids internalize those things and they grow up with different issues. A lot of us in our 30s are navigating mommy daddy issues still to this day. I've talked to a lot of 30 somethings. I've coached quite a few who are navigating daddy issues and also navigating mommy issues. And it also shows in your dating experiences. It shows up in your marriage. It shows up in a lot of ways, and definitely how you parent. And so when you think that you have, because here's the thing, sometimes we be so fixated on not being like our parents that we become exactly like them. And we don't even know how we got there. But that is because that's a part of the bloodline. Whatever that is in the bloodline. So I am a big believer in praying to release blood curses, because to me that is one of them. Because you always, it's like you repeat the history that happens in your family, and you do it unknowingly. So I pray to be released from that, like breaking generational curses. That's the real thing, y'all. It really is. But I realized that parents really only know what they know, and I'm pretty sure that you all realize this from parenting. That you know what you know, and you're gonna make mistakes, and our parents made mistakes, and there are a lot of mothers, single mothers, who have a lot of responsibility on them. Sorry guys, that's my computer. I got my laptop up because I was actually going back to upload another video. So anyway, but single mothers really have a huge responsibility on their shoulders because they are navigating taking care of children. It's like a balancing act while working, while making sure that the household is running. But there are things that do fall in the cracks, right? And so I think that a lot of the times, because a lot of women my age are like, I don't play about my kids, I don't do this, I don't do that. But to be quite honest, a lot of moms are not even present. And I'm talking about this from an educational standpoint as well, because as a former educator, there were a lot of moms who were more concerned about their lives than their own children. They were more concerned about what they had going on, who they was dating, what club they was going to, and all of these different things, and leaving their kids with other people instead of cultivating those relationships and spending time with them, going on trips, doing things with them daily. And it's like, I understand that you gotta, try to have some type of life, but at the same time, the children wind up having whole issues because their parents, i.e., mom, because it usually falls on the mom. Nobody really puts the pressure on the dads like that, but it really falls on the moms, um, because she's the one that usually is doing everything. And children really be having like whole issues. And I know from my own experience, like, it wasn't that my mom wasn't present. Even though she wasn't, it wasn't an issue for me. She worked. My dad was the one that was staying home, and that was just, well, he was at home during the day. My mom was at work during the day. He worked at night because he was a musician. And so my household was kind of flipped. Like most two-parent households, dad is out working back in the day. We talking about the 80s and 90s. So moms was picking up kids from school back then, not dads. Mine was in the reverse because my dad was a musician. So his life was in the nighttime. So studio time, all of that stuff, it happened at night. My mom was working a corporate job, so she worked in the day. But like, the relationship with my mom was different from my dad. I was a daddy's girl. And I felt like, that there was a lot of criticism because, like, as a kid, when you're not there, let me just say that, when you're not there because you might be working or doing these different things, you call yourself trying to make a better life for your kid, but kids don't understand, how they don't really understand what you're doing when they're little. They might understand it like now as adults, but it's like when I was a kid, I didn't really understand. Like, I just saw her come home and then she's like dictating, all of these different things. And I'm just like, as a kid, I was like, what? Like, you've been gone all day, now you come home and then now you telling me what to do, how to do it. And I just felt like really, like, she was criticizing me, which there was the criticism. So we had some challenges, right? And a lot of other people can actually identify with this because there are people that I talk to, moms who experience their mothers now, but they experience not having so good relationships with their moms, even sons. There are a lot of men who did not have good relationship with their moms, even though their moms were present. And so it's like, I understand, like, all of the, now that I'm at this age, I understand all of the different things that happen. Like, she's working, she's doing this and doing that, trying to provide, trying to make sure everything's taken care of. Like, we saw a lot of hustle and bustle growing up because, like I said, at 15 my dad died, like when I was 15. So my siblings were 8 and 9 when my dad died, so they were still young. And so at that time, my mom had just started her business and she was outside the home. So there was like a lot of hustle and bustle. So with that comes a lot of frustration. And so, there's a lot of frustration, and she's trying to do a whole balancing act. And so I realized, being my age, I'm 38, that she was trying to do it all with 3 children and was used to having her husband, and her husband wasn't there. So that was a level of, one, trauma, grief, and frustration because she was navigating life as a single parent. And it was quite different. Like, not to have my dad there because my dad ran a lot of the day-to-day stuff, and it was no longer like that. So I had to step up and be in a role that I wasn't even prepared for, honestly. helping my mom with my siblings going into their um, tweens. It was totally different from being babies. And so I realized when I go back, you know, and I had some frustrations with her even in adulthood where I wasn't talking to her and just different things that people don't even know nothing about. But like I realized that you have to have grace because parents like us are not perfect. They only know what they know. And back then, you know, coming from a household where you're not um, encouraged or valued, a lot of us as black people, I'm just going to say black people because I don't know what the white experience is. I can only speak for us of color. But a lot of our grandparents weren't tapped in or tuned into emotions. They weren't tapped into the needs, emotional needs. They might have been meeting the physical needs, but the emotional needs were kind of suppressed. And when you grow up in that type of environment, you only know what you know. So then sometimes you wind up operating in that same way where you don't know how to emotionally be there or what to say or how to say it. You don't necessarily be a constant point of encouragement for your kids. Um, a lot of times that doesn't happen in our family structures, and it's very necessary, especially now because I see that a lot of children, even though people my age, 30 in their 30s, we still consider millennials, have had some challenges in life. I'm seeing that the younger generation, the Gen Z people, are really like crying out by the stuff that they're doing, that we didn't even do. Like there was things that we was not gonna try, child. I don't care what was going on. I don't care if we had issues going on in our household. It was just some things that we did not try to do because we knew that our butts was gonna get towed up. Okay, and a lot of people disagree with the whole whooping situation because they like, oh, that's abuse. I don't know about that. The Bible talk about sparing the rod and spoiling the child, and I wholeheartedly believe that it made a difference in the parenting structures that's happening now versus then, because children are more out of control now than they were back in the 80s and 90s. That's all I'm gonna say on that. But a lot of parents have learned how to be emotionally tapped in. So here's the other part. With this whole gentle parenting, it's like, how is it that children are more out of control, but you are supposed to be more emotionally tapped in? I really think because the discipline is missing, but at the same time, some of us have carried trauma into our adulthood. Well, not some, a lot, a lot, a lot. I'm actually going through this whole trauma certification course, and I'm learning so much. That's all I'm gonna say. Um, it's trauma coaching certification, but learning so much, and realizing that a lot of people are traumatized from the womb. But like then it goes into your first experiences with your parents, and I'm just really realizing that parents only know what they know, and if they didn't have proper guidance, proper parenting, they're not going to give you anything but what they have. Like if they don't have anything to give you, they don't have anything to give you because it wasn't given. So a lot of the times our parents were pouring from empty cups because nobody filled their cup. And I think that when we look at our childhood and our interactions with our parents, it did mold and shape us into adulthood, and it did create a lot of issues. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of people have issues with their parents, but this is what I wanted to say. despite whatever the issues are, despite what you think it should have been, it's time to forgive. It is really time to forgive because life is too short. Um, and I know people be like, "Oh, well, everybody say that." Dude, I lost my dad at 15 years old, and that was my world. Okay, that was like my person. Okay, and life was too short then. I was only 15, and that's why that was part of my issues. Like, okay, dad's not here anymore. I was angry with God, but that's a whole another topic for another day. I might talk about that next month when we talk about fathers. But I want to say that forgiving your parents, forgiving your mother is really necessary, because we have to realize that parents really only know what they know. They only go based on their experience. You want them to, have done better and be better and do all of these different things, but a lot of times those expectations are not realistic because they didn't have the know how to do that. And if you come from a critical home, because most black families are very critical, then you will be raised, or have those same critical values unless you decide to do something different. But then a lot of the times, even though you grow up in that environment and you say you do something different, you might criticize yourself more than anybody else. So then in turn, sometimes you wind up going into that same type of mindset where you're very critical. But forgiveness is really important because it releases you from those situations. Having the conversations, and this is the other part, having them hard conversations is necessary. And I know that some people, hello, for those of you who are on there, I'm sorry. Um, I know that some people avoid having conversations with their parents, but we're grown, and if you don't do it now, you ain't gonna do it. And now is the time to do it, because you don't need to carry those emotions on to the next year, or another month, another week. Like, it's time for you to release yourself from those emotions that you've been carrying of bitterness and angry, because you feel like you didn't have certain things, or your mother or father wasn't there like they should have been. um, you have to release that so that you can have freedom, and then also having a better relationship going forward. I have honestly had the best relationship with my mom for the last few years, um, because we had the hard conversations, and it wasn't pretty. It was not the prettiest, but it was necessary because I'm looking like I'll be 40 soon, and I if I decide that I actually want to birth a kid, I don't want to carry that type of energy, that type of thing in my child's life. I'm still not sure about that. That's always been a question mark for me. Um, I'm good with other folks' kids, but I just have not settled on the fact of me actually having a kid. But I just want to say, forgive your parents. Really forgive your moms for, um, they only know what they knew, right? You have moms who had so many different issues and struggles before they had kids. And I'm just saying, even from what I know, if I because I was pregnant before, if I had them babies, I would have jacked them up. I was pregnant twice in my 20s. I would have jacked them kids all the way up because I was just not in a good place. So I didn't think that I would have been a good parent at that point in my life because I had so many issues that I was dealing with. And so when I look back on that, and I'm like, my kids would be probably telling some type of crazy story or whatever, something, had I decided to have those kids, because I was jacked up in my early 20s. Like, I had a lot of anger issues. Some kids probably be angry, flying off the handle. You know, it has just been a little crazy. But parents, moms only are, they do know what they know, right? But also, they have been through a lot of different stuff that they don't even talk about. This is the other part. We have to start, since we want people to be sensitive with us and emotionally tapped into us, we also need to be emotionally tapped into other people. And I think a lot of people are checked out when it comes to others, being sensitive to others. But I really think that that is something that is necessary, because when you are tapped into another person, then you can have compassion for that person. And a lot of our parents did not express a lot of the things that they went through, abuse that they might have faced, or the lack of their parents being around, or the fact that they had so much responsibility as kids, and a lot of their issues may have rolled into other things. Just think about how our lives are, where there are some people that strung out on drugs. That is a symptom of a much bigger problem. That is a symptom of something that's been buried. Alcohol, you're masking something. Sex addiction, you're masking something. Overeating, you're masking something. These are all symptoms of bigger problems that people just decided that they couldn't deal with, so they suppressed them, and in order to function in life decided to pick up something else. So I think that we really need to look at the humanness in our parents and try to have better relationships if they're still here, because you only have so much time with them, and then you can't go back and have those conversations. You can't go back and have the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, or whatever the case may be. You won't be able to go back. It will, at a point, you won't be able to do any of that. So it's very important to do that, because even too, when you're raising your own kids, you want them to have grace for you, you know, because you learning. Like, it's a whole learning experience on both ends, and you will want your kids not to have issues behind anything that you have done, or whatever the case may be. So, being more understanding of your parents' situation. I know that it's for dads, for a lot of people, their dads are really a sore spot, not necessarily mothers, but there are a lot of people who deal with daddy issues because of the absentee part of it. And so they wind up burying that, masking that, saying, and that's their first experience with, you know, a male, and that can be very challenging. But I'm going to say this: if you have the opportunity to, you know, talk to that parent, I would say have the conversation if you're able to have the conversation, and ask God to help you let stuff go, because it's life is way too short for you to be holding on to all of that pain, all of that anger, rage, and, you know, all of those different things. And then once they gone, you will live with regrets, because this will be the last words that you said to them, right? So the other thing is having healthy relationships mommy child relationships is really, really, really important, guys. Um, because mothers do a lot of the nurturing. They are the ones that help the child emotionally. That's not necessarily the dad's job. Dads are usually disciplinarians, and they are the fun. They sometimes come off as the fun guys, right? Because they come around for the fun part of the day, where they're playing or whatever, and all of these different things. But the dads do give the child the identity. But moms really help that child emotionally. In nurturing, moms are usually the teachers, um, and showing the child what to do and how to do it, and all of those different things. And so I think that that is something that really needs to be done in this day and age, where moms are really like in tune with their children. Like, we have all of these things about mental health and all of this other stuff, but it actually will help the child mentally, um, even spiritually, because moms usually are the ones who are like, let's go to church, or um, let's do this, or whatever her spiritual beliefs are, usually is what trickles down to the child. But it helps the child in their emotions and problem solving, and all of that kind of stuff. Moms are usually those type of teachers, so it's really, really important for moms to cultivate relationships, even um, with the child, having the conversations. Like, I'm not really a proponent of parents being their child's friends, especially when they're under 18. Over 18, yes, but that whole under 18 and that's my best friend, y'all not friends, because if you busy being a friend, then how can you be a parent? It doesn't necessarily go hand in hand, but I do believe in keeping the lines of communication open, because in my experience, even stepmommyhood, uh, being a mother figure for my siblings, being a educator, and you see a lot in education. I'm not gonna lie, like, you see the child struggle with a lot of different things. Whatever is going on in the home, it actually shows more to the teacher than it would the parent. And I have had conversations with parents where I'm like, your child is missing you, needs you. I understand that you're working, but, you know, they're struggling in this area. They need you. I've had those conversations with parents, and they like, well, I'm in school, I'm doing this, and I'm like, well, this is your child. Like, you are responsible for them. So if they are having a hard time, and I'm noticing that there are some changes and shifts in their emotions and how they're talking, even talking to the other kids. I'm like, okay, what's going on? Some will have outbursts where they're crying in class, and they're not even criers. And they're like, I miss my parent or whatever. It's very important to cultivate those relationships, and not really get tied up in your personal life especially when they're under 18, because they really need you. A lot of these kids are crying out for their parents, and it's really, um, it's really heartbreaking, if I'm being honest. So I want you all to have a takeaway where you are being a different type of parent to your kids, because I've I've seen what that could do for a child, and that could take them so far. Um, but when a child does not have that support, it can actually set them back. And um, it can make them not be able to have good relationships going forward, make them really insecure, just different things. I know that I had my own challenges, like me being shy was not necessarily because I was a shy kid. Like my first few years of my life, probably the first 5 to 6 years, I was wanting to be a singer, and I was like singing, walking around. I didn't have a fear of anything. But then once things happened, um, I dealt with abuse, and that was from my parents though. That was outside things that I couldn't even talk to my parents about. And that's the other part. You want to have such a relationship where your kids are open to have those conversations, because if they're not able to have those conversations, they are going to carry that with them for a long time and not be able to say, hey, this is what's happening. Once you become an adult, now you have to deal with it. But as a kid, you want your kid to come to you and say that, and not feel like they're in fear to have that conversation. And yeah, those lines of communication were not open for me. But in having these conversations, like with my mom, because that's the only parent I have left, um, I have learned that, you know, it's very necessary to sit down and find out what your parents' experiences were, um, what they went through, just having a heart to heart conversation. I think that it's easier when we're grown to have those conversations versus when we're younger. Most parents are not going to tell that. And it's funny because I was telling my mom, like, had you told me this when I was a teenager, I wouldn't have made this mistake. That's when I was talking about the generational curses, because uh, there was some similar things that she dealt with that I wound up dealing with in my early 20s. And so it was like the cycle repeated itself. And we didn't even have that conversation. But to know, like, now all of the things that she has, like, opened up about, and so it just made me be like, wow, like, there was a lot that she had to endure emotionally. And so a lot of this stuff trickles down, and it shows up, in the parenting styles, right? But when you humanize your parent and try to understand what they have endured, it actually helps you all to cultivate a better relationship, because now you look at it like, okay, they didn't have the tools or the resources to parent this way. They didn't know, to do certain things or to get some type of help, because back then counseling was taboo. Um, that was not even discussed until a few years back. Like, people weren't going to life coaches and all of these different things, and trying to heal from trauma and all of this kind of stuff. That was not a thing. So a lot of the times our mothers carried a lot on their shoulders. And so I believe that forgiveness is very essential, because once you forgive, a weight is released, but the lines of communication are open more. Um, and then they'll be able to come to you and even just sit and talk with you about certain things, um, where you will be able to see, like, oh, this happened. Or sometimes they'll tell you, like, maybe you shouldn't do things like this because that was one of my pitfalls. And it's I feel like it's necessary, because I know that there's some people that are like, oh, that was them, what worked for them may not work for me. But I'm of the mindset you can always learn. I am a learner. So if you went through something, you tell me about it, and I'm like, okay, this a possibility that I could deal with that. I don't want to have to deal with that. So let me do something different, or let me think about this differently. I'm that person. I'm not oh, this ain't gonna happen to me because this was just a you situation, or this was just an isolated situation. Like, I'm not that person. Um, but I wholeheartedly believe that forgiving our mothers, forgiving our parents, but especially our mothers, is really, really necessary. Understanding the load that had to be carried, even emotionally, especially if you didn't have your dad there, and how she had to be mommy and daddy. And I know a lot of people would dispute that whole daddy part, but if she was the disciplinarian is the dad's role, not a mom's role. So technically, that is mommy and daddy. Now she can't be a dad figure, meaning she can't give all the tools and the presence that a dad has, but the disciplinarian part is not a mother's job. It's actually a father's job. Moms are supposed to be nurturing, the teachers, the trainers, the cheerleaders, the that type of a thing. Um, so a lot of moms had to carry a lot on their shoulders, and so they really, and even today, a lot of moms are carrying a lot. And I think that we need to be more compassionate to parents, especially mothers who are single moms who have to do a gang of stuff in order to take care of their babies. um, I think that we need to have more compassion for that, but also I think that um, moms really need to ask for help. There's something that has happened. Like back in the day, um, there were grandparents that helped to raise the kids, right? You had grandparents and great grandparents that helped. I know that my great grandparents and my grandparents were helping, and it was a gang of us. Like my mom, there was 11. She had 11, well, 10 other siblings, and those 10 other siblings, there were like four of them that had three kids apiece. So we kind of like grew up with one another, and then you had some that had one and two. So it was a lot of us, needless to say. Um, but that's not really the thing that's happening now. A lot of moms are saying, oh, don't tell my kid what to do. Don't do this, don't do that. But you actually need that. You actually need a village, because without your village, you gonna sink, because it's a lot that you're dealing with. And I think that moms of today, I should say, not our mothers, because they've already parented us, but the moms that are the 20 somethings, 30s, 40 somethings, and you're still, guiding your under 18 child or children. I think that you should ask for help, because it will take a load off of you. I don't think, and this is another conversation that I've had with my mom, I think that there needed to be more help, because parents can only do so much, and especially a single mom, she can only see so much, do so much, because it's only 24 hours in a day, and 8 of them you spend sleeping, so that's that, and if you have other people to help you with, let's just say pick up and drop off, or you have somebody that is the one who does the homework with them, or you have someone who might meal prep for you, anybody that you can have that will be of assistance, grab a hold to those people. Even if you have somebody, and I know that people are like, I don't want nobody disciplining my kids, but a lot of these kids are running amok because there's no discipline. But if you actually reach out to your village, utilize your village, it will take a lot of the load off of you, so that you can be better mentally and physically and spiritually to be a better parent, to be a better person, to be a better mother, to be better if you reach out to your village and say, hey, I need assistance, instead of trying to do it all yourself. And I think that that's what a lot of mothers have done. They've taken on the load and said, I have to do all of this because nobody else will. But that's not necessarily true. You have to put people in place that will help you in such a way where you're able to do multiple things at a time and be multiple places, because it is stressful. Because I even think about, like, when I was having to pick up my brother when I was in, sibling mommy number two role, and I'll be picking up one from school, helping the other one with homework. My mom was working because she had her business, and I was filling in those roles, or taking my brother to work, or whatever practice he had. And then it was a lot. It was a juggling act with that, even with being stepmommy for those few years. It was a juggling act, getting up at 5 in the morning, sometimes 4:30, to get myself together before I'm getting him up, to washing him up, making sure that his clothes is out, making sure that his bag is packed with all his little diapers and all of these different things. And then he started going to school, making sure he had the supplies that he needed, the right uniform, the shoes, the homework was done, like all of these different things. And it was different in my household because my mom was of assistance at that time. Like, my brother stepped in. At that time, my sister was still living, and she was helping with things on, like, Saturday. She would make breakfast, and it would make my life a little easier, because she would have already done breakfast. She would, like, he would get up at like 6 a.m. and I'm like, no, just go back to sleep just a little bit longer. And he would have got up and went in there with my sister, and she done made him breakfast and everything. So I get up like 30 minutes later. She done already made him breakfast. Now I'm getting him dressed. So that was a little bit easier. But looking at that, it just really made my life easier in that regard. And so I realized that that was something that was necessary, to have those people to help. Because even getting him, like, I would take him, because his dad worked nights. So I would literally take him to his dad when I'm on my way to work. It was just it was a lot. It was a lot. But, like, looking at moms who have to do that every day for 18 years, you need your village. You need your people. You can't do it alone. Don't think that you can. You don't have to. It doesn't make you weak. I know that, previously that was the thing where women would say, like, you got to take care of your household. I had a back and forth with somebody about that, because they were like, why would you get a maid or a chef or this, that, and the other? And I was just like, if somebody could clean up, taking care of this boy, that's gonna make my life a whole lot easier. Even have like a nanny or something, that makes life a little bit easier. I know everybody don't agree with that, but if you doing it all, you do need help. But and so this will actually help you to enjoy your kids a little bit more when you have that assistance, and you won't be so frustrated, because when they were helping, it did take frustration off my plate. So it just made me realize, like, yeah, when I decide I'm gonna have a kid, I'm not going to try to do it all on my own. I'm gonna be phoning people, okay, who could do what, honey, because I am not walking this path alone, baby. But yeah, so, and looking at that in my own experience, I'm just like, a village is needed. My mama wound up having a village, like, after my dad died, but it wasn't a day-to-day village. It was on the phone or periodic, but that whole day to day is what makes a lot of a difference, honestly. But I say all this to say is that realizing that your mother's, because it's the Mother's Day conversation, just realizing that your mom's carrying a lot. They've carried a lot on their plates, on their shoulders, things that they have not opened up to you about. Um, and so having grace for that is very necessary. Um, and going forward, having the conversation, because you have some moms who, like I was saying, they didn't deal with life um, in the best way, and they might have gotten addicted to some things, drugs, maybe alcohol, and so they weren't present. And I know that is hard. That's a hard thing. Like, I talked about this in a previous live, how I saw my cousins go through that situation, and that was very difficult for me to see them go through that because I was right there. Like, we lived together. We all lived in the same house together for some time, and so seeing them uh, go through that, I hated that. But at the same time, at this age, I realized that my aunts were going through. They were going through their own stuff, and they didn't know how to handle whatever the thoughts were, whatever the images were, whatever the disappointments were, whatever the pain was that they had internalized. Um, they didn't know how to handle that, and so they still may not know how to handle that. And a lot of parents still don't know how to handle the things that they've been through, or they don't handle it at all, right? Because they don't talk about it or don't want to have the conversations because it is hard. But us being at a place where more of us are mentally aware and stable, getting to a place where we are like, let's have the conversation so that you can be healthier, so that we can have a better relationship, so that we can have a better understanding of one another is very necessary. And I think that it will help you in the long run, especially because like I said, time is limited, so we don't know how long we have with the parents that are left. We don't know. So it's very important that we decide to forgive and really cultivate those relationships in the last years that we have with them. No, parents did not do everything right. They're not perfect people. We're not perfect people. But have grace and forgive. Because I believe that it can be a beautiful experience once you are forgiving. Um, and it's not going to be perfect. Even after you forgive, it's not going to be a perfect process. My relationship with my mother is not a perfect process. It's not, but at the same time, it takes the willingness to try. And it's funny because years ago, I never thought that I would be in this place saying that, like, because we just didn't have that relationship. But now I'm like, I enjoy the conversations and the talks and the us going to the store or whatever the case may be, just hanging out. It looks a lot different, and I'm glad that I decided to be open and say, hey, I'm sorry for the things that you have experienced. I forgive you for not being, what I thought a mom should have been or what I felt like I needed at that time. But we can work through this. Like, we good. And it's been a work in progress. it has definitely been a work in progress. Um, so I leave you with this. Um, forgive your parents because you don't even know how long you have, and it will actually do wonders for your relationship going forward by forgiving your parents, by forgiving your moms and having better relationships, and realizing that they're still carrying trauma from their own pasts and disappointments and all these different things, and they're still learning how to navigate those things. They may not even have processed it, like I said before, but um, seeing the humanness in your parents and forgiving them, having grace for them, and letting go, because it will be a full circle moment when you realize like um, that they can be pretty cool, but also we make errors in what we do too. So when your children will come back and forgive you for different things, you will have a full circle moment in that moment and be like, wow, I forgave my mom, and I know I wasn't a perfect parent, but my kids actually forgave me, and we got a good relationship. And that's what it's about. Having the best relationships while we're here is really necessary, and it really starts with our core family, um, because you just never know when God will call them home, and then you will have so many regrets. Like, I can't go back and go get my dad. My dad is gone. I can't go back and get my sister. My sister is gone. Um, and so now, I'm glad that I've cultivated the relationship with my mom, within the last few years, because it has done wonders where we're like happy to be around each other, and do things together and have the conversations. And we be in the store on the phone, and I just seen, it's like I just seen her, and we on the phone in the store, like, yeah, so. So it's different. It's quite different, but it's very necessary, and it'll help you with your own relationships with other people, by forgiving your parents. It really will. Like, and I will say, if your parents are open to therapy, or if you just need to talk to someone, because they may not be, our parents are pretty, 60s, 70s, they kind of up there. Some might be, some of y'all might be young, might have younger parents or whatever, but like, a lot of them are not so keen on going and sitting in front of a counselor, but you could talk this stuff out, and that's actually why I'm going through the whole trauma coaching certification process, so that I can address all of these things in my courses. I actually did a healing course last year, which was really good, but that one was more from heartbreak and loss. But I am going to dive deeper when I relaunch the course again in the upcoming months. So I'll let you all know about that, where it will be like a total healing, and it's not just from your mind. What people don't realize is that trauma is so much deeper than your mental. It is all the way down to your core, baby. And that is why a lot of people don't feel good when they sit on those therapist couches, because they're just rehashing the event instead of releasing it from their being. So that is what I am going to be doing in the masterclass that I'm going to have coming up, so that it'll be a full-on release. Because through my own healing journey, forgiving and going through all of these different emotions and just different things, I can actually walk you through what I've done, how I've done it. It's not a perfect journey. Every day you're still healing. I'm just gonna say this. When people are like the healing is done, it's not done. Every day you are working on yourself. It is a constant working on yourself. Just like you go to the gym, and you work out every day, or it is a constant working on yourself. So this will give you the tools on how to do that and how to release a lot of the things that you have been holding on to so that you can be a better version of yourself and that you can have better relationships with people going forward, your family, your friends, whoever. Just cultivating better relationships. It will help you to be more compassionate, but most of all, it will be the release that you need. So I actually look forward to doing this master class because I feel like a lot of people really, really need it. And yeah, so with that, guys, I want you all to have a wonderful, wonderful night. A very happy Mother's Day. Um, please, please, please work on forgiveness, forgiving your mothers. We'll talk about forgiving daddies next month. I put parents up here because I did make the generalization of both parents, but I really want you all to be very aware of the fact that healing those mommy children relationships are very important, and it's important for you going forward to make you better for yourself and for your child or your future children. And it'll be something that's very necessary. And then when your parent passes on, you won't be holding on to the shoulda, woulda, couldas. You would have been able to enjoy them while they're here, so you won't have those regrets. So, guys, enjoy your mamas. Buy them flowers. They carrying a lot on their shoulders. They may not be telling you, but they're carrying a lot. And don't just stop at Mother's Day. Do something special for your mothers consistently. That's what I'm going to say. It's going to make a world of a difference in your relationship, too. So, with that, I will see you all later. I want you all, I'm going to keep this up on Facebook and Instagram until tomorrow, and then you will be able to watch the replays. For those of you who want to see the replay, it will be on YouTube, Tiana Nichelle the Visionary, and I will actually link the videos, the one about the strong woman and the one about navigating difficult mommy-daughter relationships. I talk about that. So, with that, you all have a great night, and I will see you back on here next week. Bye.